Welcome back to Healing Fibromyalgia's YouTube channel. My name's Paula, and as always, we're here to talk about healing fibromyalgia, the things that you can do to make yourself feel better, and also look at what is sustainable to build into our lives and how can we make these changes. And today I want to talk about intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting has been really important for me in my healing journey. It's one of the very first things I did to make some changes in the things that I thought was going to make me feel better. And I want to share what I did, how I did it, how I still do it, because these are still things that I'm doing every day, but also explaining the benefits and some of the benefits that you guys can understand for your own bodies and be looking at the things that can really make your fibromyalgia symptoms feel better. Because I think it's really important that when I'm making these videos and I am talking about the things that have worked for me, I need to explain the benefits so that you guys can understand why you might want to do these things. Understanding the why is really significant and important. So one of the first things that intermittent fasting is going to help with is a reduction in inflammation. So we know that our cells in our bodies, when they are inflamed, they cause pain. When our brain cells become inflamed, they actually cause brain fog, and they cause things like depression and anxiety. We have problems with our brain when we're going through the menopause. So anything we can do that's going to reduce our inflammation is definitely going to help, and intermittent fasting definitely will do that. It's also going to help support your mitochondria function, and if you don't know what mitochondria are, they are the parts of your cells that are responsible for making energy. So in intermittent fasting, we're going to support the mitochondria and we're going to support improved energy production. We're also going to look at how intermittent fasting can reduce blood sugars and also reduce the insulin resistance that we have in our body. So it's really important. It's something that is being talked about all the time at the moment. And if you are following health and well-being people on social media, you will have heard of insulin. You will have heard of insulin sensitivity and resistance. And it's really understanding what intermittent fasting can do for that. We also need to consider our gut health, because so much of our day-to-day well-being is based around how our gut is and how our gut health is or isn't functioning to help our physical symptoms. And actually, intermittent fasting can have a real improvement on gut health. We also talk about the enhancement of our brain function. So intermittent fasting can help with brain function. We also look at intermittent fasting and its detoxification benefits. It can help reduce the toxic load in your body. It can help support weight management and reducing excess fat in our body. All of these things are going to have an impact on our fibromyalgia. But let's break them all down and we'll talk about them individually, and we'll talk about why all of these things could be a benefit. So let's start with inflammation. Chronic inflammation is inflammation that is so massively high in your body that without significant intervention is not going to go down. So we need to look at, why is our body so inflamed? It could be inflamed because of all the things that you're putting into your body. So a lot of processed foods can cause inflammation. There's a lot of inflammatory oils in the food that we're eating, like sunflower oil, vegetable oil, rapeseed oil. These can all cause inflammation in our body. And chronic inflammation can lead to pain and fatigue. And ultimately, those are the symptoms of our fibromyalgia, aren't they? So in this reduction of inflammation, what we're also finding is that intermittent fasting, it activates a process called autophagy. Now, autophagy is a process in your body where we're changing the source of our fuel. So instead of our body being fueled by glucose because we're eating, we're actually fueling our body either by fat or by processing some of what's called zombie cells in our body. And these zombie cells are just kind of broken bits of damaged cells that are randomly floating around our body. And in the right environment, these cells are the ones that actually attach to other cells, and then they can cause issues further down the line with things like cancers and tumours. So if we can get our body into a state of autophagy, we're actually going to start using some of these zombie cells, and we're going to start getting rid of our body, getting rid of them out of our body, which is actually like an internal cleaning process. And it's really important that our bodies go through this every so often. The longer you're in a fasted state, the more autophagy you will have. Ideally, anything over 24 hours is going to activate a huge amount of autophagy, but I'm not suggesting that you start with 24-hour fasting. That seems like a lot. Let's talk about lengths of fasts and their benefits and where you can really see optimum results once we've finished talking about the benefits of intermittent fasting. So, we're doing this for autophagy. We're doing this for reducing inflammation. We're also doing this to support our mitochondria and enhance our energy production. So we know that when we have chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, we don't have huge amounts of energy. And it was one of the things that I could never really understand. I didn't know why my body wasn't creating energy in the same way everybody else's was. But intermittent fasting can help enhance mitochondria biogenesis, which means it helps the energy production in the cells be more efficient. And if you can be more efficient in the amount of energy you're creating, you're going to feel better and you're going to have less fatigue, which is really, really good. Intermittent fasting also reduces down the oxidative stress in your cells. And in turn, that oxidative stress, once we've lowered it down, is going to help the mitochondria make energy better as well. So it all kind of has a knock-on effect. It's all linked together. We're going to look at why there's a benefit to blood sugar and the insulin resistance that some people will find when they have fibromyalgia symptoms. So many people with fibromyalgia will experience blood sugar fluctuations. So your blood sugars will go up and down, and this up and down of blood sugars, it can actually make our fatigue and brain fog worse. So if we have periods of time in our day where we're not taking in any food, then actually without any food being taken in, our body doesn't have to release any insulin. And the less times in a day our body releases insulin, the more sensitive our body's going to be to when we do actually release the insulin. So we don't want to get to a point where our body is completely insulin resistant, because that's when we get problems like type 2 diabetes. By not always having this insulin being released into our body, we also don't have the crashes. And when we have this insulin crash, it crashes our blood sugars and we feel really tired. So we don't want these up and downs when we've got fibromyalgia. We want a stable environment as possible in our body so that we can feel optimal, so that we can feel the best that we can. Intermittent fasting for gut health. Really, really, really important that we improve our gut health. Disrupted gut microbiome is really common when you've got fibromyalgia symptoms. It can lead to things like bloating, it can lead to IBS symptoms, it can lead to more pain, and it can lead to more inflammation. And as I've talked about earlier, it's kind of all a knock-on effect. So if we can promote a more diverse gut microbiome, we're going to feel better because we're going to have a reduced inflammation in our body. We're going to have better digestion. The nutrients in our food are going to be digested better. And also it's going to help if you've got any kind of problems with things like leaky gut syndrome, again linked with fibromyalgia. an improvement in your gut health is going to make your physical symptoms more improved. Our gut is also where our hormones are made, and if we are not promoting an environment which is a really great environment for hormones to be made, then our body is going to have a knock-on effect as to how it feels, because we need those hormones to keep our body in balance, and 90% of our serotonin is actually made in our gut. So if we don't have an environment that's conducive of creating these hormones in the first place, again, it will have a knock-on effect as to how your physical health is. If we've got intermittent fasting, it will help reduce detoxification. So fibromyalgia symptoms are quite often associated with chemical sensitivities and toxic sensitivities. So the more chemicals and toxins that are in your body, the more sensitive you are to the side effects of those. And intermittent fasting will help so many people with fibromyalgia because it helps the ability to reduce the environment of detoxification. It will help support the liver, which is the organ that we need to get these toxins out of the body, and it helps to flush out the toxins. So if we have a huge amount of toxins in our body, we're going to have more pain, and if we can help that process be more efficient and the liver can be supported and we can get these toxins out faster, then actually they won't have such an impact on our fibromyalgia symptoms. Intermittent fasting is also really good because it helps to support weight management. It helps to reduce excess fat in your body. So if you are in a situation where you are moving your body between using the food you're eating as a fuel and also using the fat that's stored in your body as a fuel and moving between the two of those, you're naturally going to burn more body fat. So any fat that's stored in your body, we want to promote an environment where when we're not eating food for a significant period of time, our body doesn't go into starvation mode. What it actually does is go, remember that fat that we stored away? Let's use that instead. And that's a really good way of making your body more metabolically flexible. We need to teach our body to be able to move between glucose as an energy source, as in coming from food, and also our body fat as a source of food. So for those of you that don't understand, whenever we eat something, it will turn into glucose in our body. Even meat will turn into glucose in our body because our liver creates the glucose. We then have this huge spike of insulin because our insulin is designed to move that glucose from the food and the blood into fat stores in our body. And it's designed to do that because for periods where you are starving, for periods where there was not enough food, our body then goes back to those fat stores and it uses that as a source of fuel. But obviously we live in a time now where we're not really starving, are we? We have access to food really readily available, and we never really access that stored fat. So we have to teach our body now to be more flexible and to put it into a situation where actually it does need to access those fat stores. During that time of using the fat as an energy source, it won't affect your muscle mass. It will just use the fat for energy. So these are some of the benefits. There is way more benefits than I've talked about, but I think it's really important to talk about the things that are specific to fibromyalgia, because this is about getting your body to be in an optimum state so that you have less pain and less fatigue. And we know some of the things like chronic inflammation will have a massive impact on how your body is actually feeling. When I first started intermittent fasting, I didn't just think, oh, I'm going to just not eat for 24 hours and that's just what I'm going to do. I actually started changing when I was first eating in a day and when I finished eating in a day. So the time that you're eating during your day is called your eating window, and the time that you choose not to eat is called your fasting window. And I was trying to reduce down my eating window to a smaller amount of time in the day, and then I was making that fasting window longer and longer and longer. So I just started in the morning deciding what time I wanted to have my breakfast. And then as the days went on, I would just move that back by 15 minutes every day until I got to the point where actually I wasn't eating in the morning and I was eating at lunchtime. And then if I wanted to do a longer fast, I would then add more time. And then in the evening, I would decide what time I wanted to finish eating. It could be 7, it could be 8, it could be 9 o'clock at night. And then I would try and make that shorter and move that forward to make my eating window smaller. During that eating window, it's really important that we have enough food. So you need to be eating until you're full. There is no point in trying to starve yourself because it's counterproductive. You just want to be able to have all of your food in a smaller amount of time until you're full up. Eat good, nutritious food during that time if you can. Eat lots of fat, good fats for our body, not processed oils. We want good fats like animal fats, butter, lard, beef tallow. We want to eat extra virgin olive oil. We want to have coconut oil. What we don't want to have is the highly processed inflammatory oils like rapeseed oil or sunflower oil or vegetable oil. Things that are deep fried cause a lot of inflammation in our body. So during our time that we're eating, we need to try and be as conscious as we can to be fueling our body with nutritious food. And then during that time where we're fasting, we want to just be mindful. So things that can take us and break our fast are things that are potentially sugary or even diet drinks, fizzy pop, even diet and zeros, because for some people the sweet taste on your mouth can trigger that process that your brain will release the insulin, and that will take you out of your fasted state. So during your fasting time, you need to just be conscious of what you're actually having. Ideally, stick with things that have completely no sugar in. So water, sparkling water, coffee, herbal teas. But again, if you put milk with those, you're going to break your fast because milk has sugar in it. So it is just important that we are conscious about that fasting time and what we're having. A lot of people choose to do their fasting time overnight because it's easier, obviously, when you're sleeping. For me, I like to now break my fast about 3-4 o'clock. Some days it's not until a little bit later, maybe 6 o'clock at night. And then I will eat through to about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And during that time, I eat a lot of food. I eat a lot of high fat food. I eat a lot of animal protein. I tend not to eat so many carbohydrates, and if I do, I try and stick with the unprocessed carbohydrates. And it's really about learning to switch in and out of this fasted state. And during your time when you're fasting, it gives your body a chance to rest and digest. Now, one of the things that's really energy intensive in our body and the process of digesting food, it uses so much energy that when we've got fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, we just don't have spare energy to use when we don't need to. So if you're in a situation at the moment where you're not really thinking about what you're eating, you're not really conscious about when you're eating and the things that you're putting in your mouth, maybe just start to become more aware. Every time you eat a biscuit, you're going through that process of releasing the insulin and digesting. Every time you're having a cup of tea, you're triggering your body again. And if we're doing that several times a day, this is up and down, up and down, up and down, and we want this stability for us to feel optimal. So guys, I really hope that was some information. It's a real brief start to intermittent fasting. Get some comments in the comments though. Ask me questions about what you want to know, what can help you learn more, what can help you understand intermittent fasting more, and have you tried it? Has it made a difference to you? How long are the fasts that you're doing? Are you doing 12-hour fasts? Are you doing 16-hour fasts? Are you doing 48-hour fasts? Let me know your experience. And like always, please do just keep sharing these videos, subscribe to the channel. Let everybody know that I'm making these videos because I'm making them because there are so many people out there that are really in a position where they're struggling with their fibromyalgia. So let's share this information as much as we can so that we can all feel better. Nobody deserves fibromyalgia. It's a really rough ride. And if there are things that you can do to make you feel better, you should be doing them. Guys, I really appreciate you watching today. I really appreciate all the support. And I can't wait to see you back at the next video.